Picture a Saturday morning, a dusty field, maybe somewhere deep in the Eastern Cape. A kid catches the ball, sidesteps 3 defenders, and scores a try that would make the seasoned professionals entirely jealous. The parents on the touchline go wild. The coach punches the air. But by Monday morning, that moment has completely evaporated because there wasn't a single camera, scout, or official record of it ever happening. Why do we simply accept that the vast majority of sporting brilliance happens completely in the dark?
It is a staggering reality when you frame it like that. We live in a hyper-connected era where you can track a food delivery to the exact meter, yet the athletic brilliance of thousands of kids remains completely invisible simply because they play for an amateur club or a rural school. But that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are looking at a fundamental shift in how grassroots sports operate, driven by a platform called SUPA Rugby Pro by SuperView. It is essentially rewiring the entire ecosystem so that every single club and school gets put on the map, literally.
And we are not talking about the massive franchises or the national sides here, which is what makes this so fascinating. We are talking about the absolute soul of the game. The amateur clubs, the school teams, the girls' squads that constantly get sidelined. Usually, when someone says digital transformation for a local club, it means thousands of rands or dollars, hiring a web developer, and endless administrative headaches.
Exactly. Which is why most clubs just default to a chaotic WhatsApp group, where the weekend score gets lost somewhere between thumbs-up emojis and angry complaints about the parking situation at the away game. But what if that barrier was completely obliterated? Imagine giving every school and club a fully functioning, professional mini-site for absolutely zero cost.
Zero cost is always a bold claim. Usually, free means a terrible user experience, or it means your data is being aggressively sold to the highest bidder. How does a local team actually build a digital home without a tech team? And how is it actually free?
Think of it like moving into a fully furnished digital house where you only need to bring your own photos. The platform provides a dual surface system. There is a very simple backend where the coach or admin inputs the fixtures, the player rosters, and the results. Then, with one single click, all of that instantly populates a beautiful, public-facing mini-site. You can even map it to your own custom domain. No coding, no deployment hassle. Suddenly, a rural school has the exact same digital footprint and professional sheen as a top-tier private academy.
That is a brilliant equalizer. The playing field is literally leveled online before anyone even steps onto the grass. I can easily see the practical benefits. Parents know exactly where the away game is. Opposition coaches can check the schedule, and the community stays in the loop. But let us dig deeper into the media side. Because text and stats are great, but sports are inherently visual. How do they handle video if they do not have a massive broadcasting truck parked next to the field?
This is where the architecture gets incredibly clever. On the free tier, they use an embed-only policy. So, a parent films that incredible try on their smartphone, uploads it to YouTube or Facebook, and simply embeds it directly onto the player's profile or the match page. The platform also integrates a browser-based live studio with a built-in scoreboard overlay. It is essentially turning a smartphone on a cheap tripod into a live broadcasting network.
Wait, so a grandparent sitting halfway across the world can watch a live, score-tracked feed of an under-14 match broadcast from a phone?
Precisely.
That is profound. It changes the entire nature of who gets to be a spectator. But it also raises a much bigger question about visibility and consequences. What does this mean for the kid who desperately wants to make a career out of this, but happens to live 200 kilometers away from the nearest Union Scout?
You have just hit the absolute core of why this platform matters. For decades, talent identification has been strictly geography dependent. If a scout didn't physically drive past that dusty field on that specific Saturday, the talent remained entirely undiscovered. Now, every player gets a profile. Every try, every conversion, every minute played is tracked. A coach in the city can review footage of a fly half from a township school on a Monday morning. By Wednesday, that kid could be on a trial list. 6 months later, they are on a bursary that changes their entire family's trajectory. We are talking about altering human lives just by providing a lens.
That honestly gives me goosebumps. It is not just about the sport anymore. It is about social mobility. And it is crucial to point out that this platform gives equal billing across the board. The first under-15 boys team shares the exact same platform architecture as the under-16 girls team. The women's game desperately needs this kind of uncompromised visibility to grow, yet they are so often treated as an afterthought by traditional media.
Absolutely. You cannot grow a demographic of a sport if it is perpetually hidden in the shadows. By putting the girls' fixtures, stats, and highlights on the exact same pedestal, it forces a cultural shift. It says to the community, this game matters just as much. And as these clubs and schools grow their audience, they inevitably hit a point where they need to sustain themselves financially. Which brings us to the genius of the upgrade path.
Right, because at some point, the free model has to sustain the business behind it. I understand there is a pro tier, but how does it avoid becoming a predatory paywall that punishes the poorer schools once they get hooked?
By making the transition entirely voluntary and purely value-driven, a school is never forced to upgrade just to exist online. Nobody is gatekeeping their basic visibility. But let us say a club builds a massive following. They want to start monetizing. For a flat monthly fee, they unlock the pro broadcast and commercial engine. We are talking multi-bitrate streaming, cloud video hosting, and most importantly, real commerce. They can sell digital match passes, offer pay-per-view bundles, and run branded sponsor overlays on their streams.
So it transforms the club from a weekend hobby into a self-sustaining microeconomy. Instead of begging local businesses for a pity donation in exchange for a plastic banner that blows away in the wind, they can offer real, trackable digital visibility to sponsors.
Exactly. And the revenue flows directly back into the club through automated payouts. That funds the transport, the new boots, the tour fees. It is a virtuous cycle. The community gets better access, the sponsors get real metrics, and the club gets the capital to survive and thrive. It makes you wonder, why did it take so long for the sports industry to realize that the bottom of the pyramid holds the most untapped value?
I think it is because the traditional media model is obsessed with the apex. Broadcasters only care about the top 1% because that is where the immediate, massive advertising dollars are. But they fundamentally misunderstood the power of community. A parent does not care about a professional match halfway across the world as much as they care about their own child's game. The emotional investment at the grassroots level is infinitely higher.
That is a phenomenal observation. The emotional economy of grassroots sports is massive, but it was completely fragmented. This platform acts as the unifier. It takes all that localized passion and organizes it into a structured, searchable, and eventually monetizable ecosystem. And the fact that they built this specifically for the South African landscape, accommodating the rural-urban divide, the lack of resources, and the deep, almost religious love for the game, makes it a blueprint for how amateur sports should be handled globally.
It really is a blueprint. And looking at the sheer scale of it, you have to ask about the long-term societal impact. If every single player has a digital record of their youth sports career, how does that change the culture of amateur athletics? Do we risk putting too much pressure on kids, knowing everything is recorded and analyzed?
That is the philosophical tightrope we are walking now. On one hand, you are democratizing opportunity. You are tearing down the gatekeepers of talent. On the other hand, you are introducing a level of digital permanence to what used to be a fleeting, localized experience. But I would argue the benefits far outweigh the risks. Having a record of your efforts, a place where your community celebrates you, fosters immense pride. It gives these kids a sense of belonging and undeniable proof that their hard work actually happened.
Proof of existence. That is an incredibly powerful concept. It is not just a digital tool. It is an archive of community memory. As we wrap up this discussion, I am struck by how a seemingly simple technological solution, a free mini-site, and some clever streaming tools can address such deep-rooted systemic inequalities. It is giving voice, visibility, and tangible value to the places the big cameras never go.
It forces us to redefine what we consider important in sports. If the soul of the game truly lives in the dusty fields, the township clubs, and the rural schools, then this platform is finally giving that soul a permanent home. The tools are there, completely free, waiting to be claimed. The only question left is what happens to the global sporting landscape when the invisible majority finally steps into the light.
A fascinating question to leave hanging in the air. When the playing field is truly leveled, the next global superstar could come from absolutely anywhere, and we will finally have the tape to prove it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep looking for the stories happening just outside the spotlight.